Good morning. Hello, my name is Amanda Figueroa. I am the community director for a project called Curationist, which I'm going to tell you all about in just a second. I'm dialing into you today from the Bronx, New York City, which makes it early morning for me, although I know it's afternoon for you guys. And my hometown is originally from El Paso, Texas, Ciudad Juarez, a city at the US-Mexico border. I'm joined this morning by my wonderful colleague Noah from our content team, who's going to jump on in and lead us through a really fun workshop later today. But Noah, do you want to introduce yourself before we dive in?
Yeah, I'll do a quick hello. Noah, I'm a freelance content writer for Curationist. So I've been, lending my little expertise and non-expertise to the team. I'm also tuning in from New York City. I'm in Brooklyn right now. This is the earliest I've ever been awake in my life. And I'm excited to be here and talk to you about Curationist.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Noah. Like I said, in a little bit, Noah's going to guide us through a digital storytelling workshop that's going to help us all dive into what open access images can do for the narratives we want to tell in the world. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about Curationist. And towards that end, I do have some slides to share. Joe, is everyone seeing a slideshow now?
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
Awesome. That makes me so happy. I will say while I'm doing this, I personally can't monitor the chat, although I know Nicole is doing that. So if you have anything, let's go back a bunch of slides. So if you have any questions or anything that comes up in the chat as I'm talking, Nicole, please don't hesitate to flag me and slow me down. It looks like a presentation when I'm delivering these slides, but really the goal today is just to have a really fun, interesting conversation about something we're all interested in, which is open access images and the digital art world. So I'll begin by saying Curationist is a project run by an organization called the MHC Foundation, and we don't have to get into the whole corporate history of that. But I will say that Curationist is first and foremost a platform. And what we're most focused on doing is being a bridge between previously siloed open access image collections. You guys might be super familiar with this already, but when an organization like the Metropolitan Museum of Art or the British Museum digitizes their collection, they do so in isolation, pretty much. They digitize their collections, they add their metadata, they invent their metadata structure, and they host all their own collections in their system, in their own website platform. And that goes for every institution that digitizes. And a few years ago, when Curationist was first starting, it started because someone looked around and said, wow, there's no one platform where I can search all of these databases all at once. And that at heart is what Curationist is. It is a search platform where you can type in one search and receive open access images from across digitized Creative Commons licensed institutions around the world. That means that when we launch our V2 platform just next month, you'll be searching at one search, you'll be searching over 4 million images, 4 million digitized images, which makes it a really, really huge, really efficient way to find open access images. We're super excited about that. However, a platform is not enough. You need so much more to go along with that. And as you can tell by the name Curationist, what we're very interested in is the way that people curate and collect images for themselves, which means that we're participating in this long legacy of curatorial work, which, on the one hand is important and has preserved so much history, but on the other hand has sort of an icky relationship with colonialism, with stolen art and artifacts, and the prioritization of certain types of knowledge and certain types of stories in the world. And so that relationship to curatorial work is something that we take really, really seriously and have spent a lot of time really trying to investigate. While certainly, of course, we believe in the preservation of art and artworks and the dire importance that art and art institutions are to the world, we're very aware that our platform, if left unattended, unmonitored, is only going to continue to reify those standard storytelling and those standard forms of history that we already have. And I don't know about you guys, but I think we have a great opportunity here to do something new and radical and interesting. And I'm so grateful to be part of a team at Curationist that wants to do those things as well. So that's where we get to what I call, oh, so here you can see my slide on curation. You know, we're very aware that, you know, the roots of curatorial work are all in this Western tradition of knowledge, that the history of museums in particular was all about displaying the might of empire through the exhibit of art and artifacts taken from around the world, and that we still have those lingering legacies in our metadata taxonomy. So when we start to really rethink that, it brings us to what I call curation-ish, which I think is a very cute way of grappling with some actually really thorny ideas, which is, well, if we have this amazing technical platform, we also have this opportunity to do something different. So what are we going to do different? When we start to think about curation-ish, it's a call to sort of think about what else needs to be digitized, what else needs to be made available broadly, and how would incorporating those things change the dominant narratives that we use to tell stories of history, stories of the world? For example, that means that in my position as community director, I do a lot of work with smaller archives, what I call grassroots level cultural heritage organizations, really trying to find the people who have been stewards of knowledge in a very specific and targeted way, and making sure that their knowledge, their history, their archives, and their research is put on an even platform with our big institutional partners like the Brooklyn Museum, like the Met, like the British Museum. And that has been a great blessing for me. It's been a real joy to do that sort of work. And it also means that we're experimenting now in advance of our V2 platform in ways to use this curatorial work to flip the scripts and to let other people become experts on the artifacts and art images that exist in our database. So to move from curatorial work into curation-ish work, certainly, of course, means making images and artifacts widely available through open access, through Creative Commons. But it also means that we need to grant knowledge holders access to share their information. So many things exist in these museum collections that people have really what I call local level knowledge. And in the current model, those things are so far apart. We have a platform now where we can bring them together, and we're doing that in a couple different ways, which I'd be very happy to talk through with you guys in just a second. So when we start to do that work and we start to bridge these things together, we get to Curationist. We get to the platform where we are making space not only for these large institutions to make their collections even more available than they have been to date by making them all searchable in one platform, but we're also offering a place where people can come together to contribute their own knowledge through tools like our editable metadata schema, through tools like our fellowship program, our critics program, and our just regular blog, where we talk about these issues in metadata, talk about these issues in taxonomy, and talk about these issues in grassroots level cultural heritage. I'm here with Noah, who is a member of our content team and has done a wonderful job in demonstrating his expertise in things that otherwise would never get documented in these museum settings. So I am going to turn it over to Noah to walk us through their process, to walk us through a process that we can all play with to really understand why open access imaging is so important to digital storytelling, and more importantly, so important to ethical, compassionate, diverse, and interesting digital storytelling in 2022. So Noah, I'm gonna pass the mic to you virtually, but I will continue to share my screen so that you can, so that I'll scroll through your slides through the activity.
Perfect, thanks. So yeah, I guess while Amanda gets set up with our slides for our activity, I'll just share a little bit about myself. I came into Curationist as part of the Critics of Color Fellowship, which was a new initiative that Curationist did. I specifically focus on queer and trans history in open access art, and that's a thing that Curationist is a great platform for new takes on existing histories. Something that is really important to me about documenting queer and trans history is layering metadata. A lot of the words that we use change over time. And so being able to not only like keep outdated terms that are useful for searching within historical time periods, but also updating them, adding layers of tags for the present day, makes things more accessible for people searching in the present. I will say one of the things that I ran into when I was researching for the writing that I was doing for Curationist is that a lot of my favorite images, or the things that I felt were the most impactful, were not open access, which is a big problem because that's Curationist's whole thing. And so, yeah, I wanted to do a little activity with everyone where we look at open access images, what's there, what's available, and what's not available, and what that says about the stories that are getting told, and then what we can do about that. So if we go to the next slide, I've just chosen a little example. I think since we're here at Europeana, World's Fairs are a big part of European history in a lot of different avenues. So yeah, basically, I would love for everyone to get on the Jamboard. The link is in the chat. And we're going to do a couple of steps. One, everyone can go out and find any image related to a European World's Fair, and then add it to the next slide of the Jamboard. And so we'll take a look at all those things and then go from there. So I'm going to just be quiet for a minute. Honestly, I'm going to set a little timer for 2 minutes. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I think you can take more than 2. We could take up to 5, 7. Yeah, give people a chance to really dig into their searches. Definitely add any images that you find, or add post-it notes of search results that you've seen, things that have popped up if you'd rather contribute some text. And everyone can watch me add as I'm sharing my screen. World's Fair, Paris. That seems interesting. You see this that pops up when you search through Google here? Only select images that you have confirmed the license to use. Very on topic. And I hope no one minds, but I might resize these a little bit so that everyone can add a couple. I love the posters that people are finding. I once in a past life had a career in graphic design, so a good poster gets me every time. I love this. I don't know what this is, but it's gorgeous.
I'm sorry, I don't seem to be able to add, so I'm not sure what's going wrong for me.
Oh no. Are you you successfully in the Jamboard, right?
Yeah, I'm on the right slide, but it
Okay.
just never appears. I must be doing something wrong.
That's so strange. Do you see this the sidebar over
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
And you can click the little image
yeah,
icon and none
yeah.
of that pops up?
And it says sign in.
Oh,
Yeah, and it doesn't
I'm so
allow me to
sorry.
do that. I don't know why.
I hate that for you.
That's
You could
okay. I'll try
also
another browser. It's okay.
try that, or you could also try adding a sticky note, and maybe it would let you just contribute some text that way, and you could
Okay.
just drop some text of whatever you're finding in your searches.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know about the
Okay.
technical part. There's always
It's always
a
one, and it's
couple.
usually me.
No.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
It's clearly just because you have such a good energy to you. Google's just like, no, we can't handle it. Wow, I'm loving all of these images that are turning up. Noah, are you noticing any that stand out to you?
Yeah, this is really exciting. I want to hold off on analyzing because I would love for us to analyze it together. But it's always exciting to see the posters or like the way that the fairs are advertised versus archival images of these things, which I mean are also their own form of advertising. But yeah, the contrast is really exciting.
The typography down here is like so good. Yeah, feel free to cover up the text there in the middle, you guys. It's not super important. Oh, love a map. Thank you for contributing the map. All right. Any additions? Anyone still searching for an image and want more time? I'm going to take that as a no, and I'm going to say, Noah, please tell us what you see.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of sort of big, zoomed out images of these World's Fairs. Yeah, we're getting a lot of posters. I think something that's really exciting to me, and that I kind of want to talk about a little later, is all of this like Art Nouveau, kind of like graphic poster styling. And yeah, we also get all of the biggest, most photographable monuments. And I would actually just love for everyone, after searching up all these images, if you could just put one word in the chat to describe sort of a through line that you're seeing through all of these, just like first search, what comes up when you search for World's Fair images.
I
Definitely.
put universal because I feel like I'm seeing so many like top down, like God's eye view, bird's eye view. Monumental from Maggie. I see that. I go get this image for you while other people think about their word.
Advertisement, definitely. And yeah, those feel very connected. The monumental and the advertisement.
We're still getting some images added. Thank you. Created, not experienced. Totally agree.
Right. So yeah, I think this is a pretty familiar experience for searching for, any kind of historical event, is that you get the lowest common denominator ends up being sort of the official story of the event, which is, the posters, the big, beautiful images. We get a lot of the Eiffel Tower already. So yeah, that's kind of it feels like these images are representing kind of the default story of World's Fairs, which is, industry, invention, empire, sort of wowing the public with, like the breadth of human knowledge. And yeah, the other thing to note here is the media. And so, yeah, mostly we're getting drawings and posters, which are advertisements, sort of official representations, and then photographs taken from this like very wide angle, made to sort of wow you kind of perspective. So then let's go to the next slide. And so same topic, World's Fairs, and now the prompt is make sure that you're finding an open access image. And yeah, Amanda, if you could share some tips about ways to make sure that the image that you're adding is actually open access.
Sure. I mean, that's a huge part of the exercise, right? Is that, especially just from a standard Google search, it can be really hard to know if what you're looking at actually is licensed to be shared, used, reproduced, etc. Like I pointed out earlier, even here in Jamboard, when I go to search through Google Images, it warns me only select images you have confirmed that you have the license to use, which is hilarious because they offer a link out, but like from that sentence alone, I don't even know what they're talking about unless I'm already familiar with, Creative Commons licensing, other open access licensing. So if we're looking specifically for some open access images, you do have some options. One is to search through Google Images, World's Fair. And here through Jamboard, you don't have a way to filter, but on the actual Google image search, there is a filter that you can select to say, show me open access only. And you guys can experiment with how effective that is. You can also, by virtue of our amazing hosts and the event that has brought us all together, you can search the Europeana collections and see open access images there. You could also search Wikimedia Commons is a great place to look. And these are platforms where you can be assured that everything you're finding usually does have that Creative Commons license. In just a couple months, you'll also be able to search on the Curationist platform. And if after this call, you're really interested in getting a demo of how our platform works, I'd be happy to show you guys. And I do see a question from, I think that's Pele. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And the question was, have you run into any issues regarding personal integrity of persons creating stories or persons being portrayed in stories? That's a great question. I'll answer it and then I'll ask Noah to jump in and offer his experience as well. So at Curationist, when we publish our digital stories through our online platform or our Medium blog, they go through a pretty rigorous editorial process. So we aren't just accepting stories and content from just anybody. You go through a process and you get coached through not just how to find and source these open access images in the collection, but also on how to write ethically and compassionately, especially about sensitive topics. So Noah, do you have something to add to your experience?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I mean, I think something that I find really refreshing about writing for Curationist is, I mean, coming from an academic background, the kind of rigor and sort of objectivity that you're expected to kind of put up when writing about histories that may be like personally impactful to you um, is can get kind of exhausting. And so Curationist, while there's rigorous fact checking and it's important to not put out any information that you can't back up, there is also a level of personal storytelling that's kind of allowed in the interpretation of art. So issues regarding personal integrity, not so much. Allowances for personal integrity, definitely a thing that I've encountered.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe, for adding that. You have gone through our editorial process in a way that I have yet to. Although I'm really looking forward to writing for the platform soon as well. As soon as we get this thing launched and I can think about anything other than the dev team, can't wait to write. Kelly, was that a useful answer to you? I'm so glad. Does anyone else have any questions? Is everyone still searching for their open access images? Ooh, is that a coin? That's a pressed penny. That's so cool. Wow, I can see the difference in the types of images already. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna leave a little bit more time on the timer. I feel like this is like a hilarious hands-on ad for Curationist because the process of going and finding open access images on your own just like physically takes more time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm like, oh, it's a search, and you search everything all at once. It sounds so simple, but guys, when I tell you, like, our dev team is on this back end, just like elbow deep, shoulder deep in this like metadata, making all these different systems talk to each other, pulling in images, pushing out images. Like, I certainly couldn't do it, to say the least. Yeah. And while we're still pulling in images, wow, I'm just thrilled by the kinds of images you guys are finding. A screenshot from a video, Paula, is totally fine. Very creative thinking. I super appreciate it. But while we're pulling in images and video screenshots, I will say this is a good time to make a little pitch. If there is a story that you have always wanted to tell, whether it's about a historical moment, about an artist, about an artifact, about a culture, we would love your pitches. We're always looking for more content writers. We're always looking for new ideas and new perspectives and new types of knowledge to feature on Curationist. So if you're in here, you're digging around, you're thinking, oh, I know exactly what I want to write about, please send me an email. I'll give all my contact information at the end of our conference session, but I, for one, would love to hear what you guys are thinking about. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. He is very excited about open access images.
Something that I love that's happening already is, yeah, when you start narrowing it down to open access, is you start getting like the same collections of photographs. Like it looks like we have these two black and white photos that are sort of like little images of like exhibitions in a World's Fair, and so that's definitely a thing that you run into is like which artists or like photographers' collections of images like happen to get donated to whatever archive who happened to decide to digitize it and say that it's open access.
Yeah, that's super funny. I also see our 2 pressed pennies clearly come from the same collection.
Yeah, so I think people can also, again, start throwing in the chat, like what are the common themes that you're seeing here? For me, something that I mean, with these pressed pennies, something that comes up a lot is like, what are the things that actually can be archived? Like a pressed penny is a thing that it's an object that doesn't degrade as much as, say, like a piece of fabric or something that can't be archived, an intangible experience. And so these end up being the things that we have to tell stories off of.
I put the word human in the chat because I just see so much more like real people here, even in the images that don't have people in them. Like this one of the Ferris wheel, it just looks so much like a tourist photo or like someone snapping a photo sort of in the moment, as opposed to a carefully orchestrated advertising shot. And then of course we have so many pictures with like real people in them now. Anyone else wants to add images or wants to add post-its that have their image links on it? Oh, Maggie was thinking industrial. And Christina has noticed this slide is way less colorful. Maggie, can I ask you to tell us about industrial?
Yeah, like it was actually interesting when you said that you think human, because like I had this feeling of more, I think it's mainly the train, and maybe the fact that it's black and white maybe makes me think about, like the steel plus the pennies and the Ferris wheel. Like they feel just like material is more closer to like industrial age.
Well, to riff on that for a second, because I think this is so interesting that we both are looking at the same images and went in seemingly
Right.
different directions. I actually don't think we're that different, because I think to call something industrial sort of necessitates the human component, right? The people
Right.
who shovel the coal, the people who press the pennies. Whereas when we were looking at our advertising slide, that was neither human nor industrial. It was just like marketing, it was just like graphic design.
Yeah, exactly. And here you have like the feeling of something being created, like physical.
Yeah.
Maybe also.
Yeah, how fun. All right, I think we've got all the images and all the image ideas that we've got so far. Noah, do you wanna riff on this a little bit for us? A little bit more? I think we've already started.
Yeah, no, this is all really exciting. And I think this is kind of the opportunity that open access art gives you, as like narrowing down that field ends up, yeah, you can do things like pull out the theme of labor or like pull out sort of the human element of things. And yeah, a lot less colorful. Like I think when you go into what is actually accessible or like open for use, you end up uncovering stories that aren't the default story. Like I brought up the Art Nouveau thing earlier. Like that's, for me, like at the top of my mind when I think about a World's Fair. And what I don't think about are these like little tourist souvenirs that, like people press a penny and they take it home with them. And that's, yeah, a much more human or kind of like individual level of experiencing the fair. So yeah, why don't we go to our next slide?
Before we do that, can I flash us back quickly to this slide just for the comparison? Like, doesn't that just look wild now to see the difference? Sarah in the chat said visually dichromatic, more activity featured in this one. And you can see it just side by side. That's wild. I love this activity. Yes, we can go to the third slide.
Yeah, so then the key element, what Curationist is all about, is what would you add. So, there is a lot of nitty-gritty archival work going on to like add technical layers of metadata, like make things more searchable. But the really important thing is like, what are the stories that you would tell, or that, what are the new perspectives or old perspectives that have been sort of pushed down about these events. And so this is another thing where, as I ramble, feel free to add in the chat, if you have any other perspectives on like World's Fairs, memories, histories, other things. One, example that I can throw out right now is there's a scholar named Deborah Silverman who talks about Art Nouveau as an art of darkness, and talks about kind of the history of colonialism, specifically in like Belgium World's Fairs. And she does a lot of comparing of images from like the Belgian Congo of whips and rubber and these kind of really horrifying, but also sort of that same naturalistic, curving, vine-like art style that also appears in Art Nouveau, which is not associated with, that kind of history. It's mostly like, that sort of metropolitan, beautiful life. And she kind of draws connections between those histories and says, these things were happening at the same time and were probably influencing each other. And so that's another level, that's another like tag or piece of metadata that you can add to this art style that already has kind of a set history. So yeah, let's take a look at what's going on in the chat.
Yeah, we were just talking about the human element and the way that these photos just seem so much more personal. I like that we were calling them tourist souvenirs, Noah, because I definitely got that feeling like I was looking through someone else's like vacation photos, which I know I always find very fun. So I'm so happy with thank you, Noah, for that amazing little workshop activity. I had a great time. Thank you everyone else for jumping in and playing along with us, sort of digging around in these open access images and not so open access images. We do have a little more time. So first and foremost, I would love to pause here. I'll stop sharing briefly just to find out if anybody has any questions or wants to talk through anything else that they saw in our activity. Before I'll move on to some wrap-up information and what I will dorkily call next steps.
I have one question, Amanda.
Sure.
Something that you mentioned in the beginning about the Curationist website, and you were mentioning tools that you are using, like the editable metadata schema, and like opening yourself to all these different communities. Did you experience any pushback from the gatekeepers, like from the institutions, from like curators that collected the material, and I know they're putting them in open access, but like that's different to give people the possibility to access something, and different when they start to add a layer to that, right?
Yeah, so I will say that I shouldn't say editable, it's annotatable metadata.
Yeah, okay.
So it can be added to, but not fundamentally changed. That's a feature we're going to roll out early next year, I think. So we actually don't have a ton of user cases for it yet. So no pushback yet. Although I will say, firstly, I would love that. I would love to have a conversation with a curator who's like, what are you doing? Why? Who allowed this? Because I think that's a productive place to have those conversations. And second of all, I will say every curator, every museum professional, every art historian that I've talked to about this actually is really excited. Like, really wants to know, like, what else is out there? What have I missed in my research? What is the archive or the information or the oral history that I didn't have access to, that I missed? So truly everyone we've talked to about this idea has been really, really generous and fun, but I can't tell you, a little part of me isn't, like, I would love to have a fight. Like, I would love to have that conversation. I would love to, like, go to the mat for that idea. But yeah, everyone has been super generous and really excited about that. And as we're building out that feature to launch in the future, we're also thinking about, well, then how can we, you know, double, triple peer review, authenticate this additional metadata, and then maybe even push it back to the source databases at these institutions, or to other, you know, sources of information like Wikipedia, for example.
That's great to
So,
hear. Yeah,
yeah,
that's amazing. I don't want to make, you know, curators or like professionals from a cultural heritage institution like sound evil, that they are like,
they're not, no, they're
but because I also don't have that experience, but there is this element that some people are less excited. So I was just wondering if you experienced that. I'm happy to hear that it's not the case.
No, and like I said, everyone has been super generous. It's really, really fun and totally affirming. It's a great joy to realize that the work that I find so important, of like, we have got to find out who is out there that knows more about these objects, is a shared vision. So it's been a dream.
That's great. That's very validating.
Other questions, thoughts, ideas? Does anyone want to, like, pitch an article?
Actually, I have a question for reuse of the content you have on your website. Is it like users log in and can annotate and research, or is there also some kind of technical component like an API where institutions can dock onto Curationist and then pull images from there more or less automatically if they match, or if they can use it?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on your question. I think I'm on a little Zoom lag. Yes, so the answer is both. And this might be a good avenue for me to share my screen again and show you guys the demo that is going to be going live very soon in November, which both seems like so soon and also so far away. You know that thing when you're getting ready to launch. So the answer is both, Christina. We do make use of a lot of institutional APIs to pull in images, and after we launch and go live and, you know, check that everything's still running the way it should, we do plan on creating our own API and some other tools, so other institutions and other organizations can source images from us directly. We also plan on making most of our backend code open access and, you know, contributing at every level to the open access ecosystem. That being said, on the platform when we launch, there is a login tool. So let me just quickly take you through this Figma prototype. It goes down the screen. You can see we have over 4 million works. You will get a preview of some works that we have. You can also see curated collections. So for example, here's a collection of martial goddesses and mythical queens by another one of our content creators, Reina. We have a bunch of different artifacts that have been added. And we also have annotations that she has added. So text content that has been sourced and researched, approved by our editorial team, and then the open access images to go along with it, as well as those citations you can see, and an invitation for people to pitch. And then if we keep going forward, yes, we can search. So we can search by women, armor. We can filter, of course, by material. Let's say we want bronze goddess. All of this metadata is also reviewed by our digital archivist team. So we're also very involved in sort of DIA metadata issues and making sure, like Noah said earlier, that our metadata both reflects historical search terms that people will find useful and think of, but also continues to add and augment the way that we tell stories and the way that we label objects. We can look at this one, and then we can add it to a collection. We can, from this menu, select a collection. You could also create a new one. And then if we go to my profile, here's my collection. I can either make that a private collection, so only I can see it, or public, so it can be shared with the world. Yeah, so like you can see, that is both. We do allow people to create those collections just on their own. Anyone can log in and create that user account. And then if from your collection you want to write a more substantial article, you would get in touch with our editorial team.
Thank you. And that's interesting because we at our institution, we currently have a project where we try to, in a digital space, connect our exhibition objects. So that are in the exhibition with other objects that may be in our archives, but where we have digitized, and that people can sort of see the connections between stuff that is in the exhibition and stuff that is in the archive. And of course, the idea would not to only be limited to our own collection, but also to digital collections everywhere. So we're looking for sources from where to pull objects and information from, like Europeana or your website. Yeah.
I would love to have a conversation with you about that. I'm actually going to put my contact information in the chat for you especially, but anyone who's interested or has an article idea or just wants to know more about the work we're doing, please send me an email. That's my direct email address. You will get me. And I would love to have a Zoom call or a chit chat to learn more.
Okay, perfect. I would talk to the sorry.
I was going to say, what's your institution?
It's the Film Museum and Film Institute in Frankfurt, Germany.
Okay, great. Oh, I love it, actually. I family there. Excellent. Yeah. Is there anything else? Can I answer more questions? Can we share our screen and do more work?
I do have a small question. It's Pelle Philipsson from the Museum of Work in Sweden. I also work in a startup called Track You Back, a startup company who just a couple of years ago started working with a new genealogy platform. And we work quite a lot with open data from media to statistics. And I was just wondering, in your platform, the Curationist, do you plan to have any access for commercial companies as well in the collections that you offer?
I don't see us offering anything particular for commercial companies, but we will offer our API, of course, publicly, and people can make use of that how they will. We do, of course, in addition to having these amazing images, we are generating a kind of value for commercial companies specifically. But the API will be available publicly, so anyone can make use of it how they will. And we are generating a large amount of data. We now have this, 4.4 million database of images and all of their associated metadata. And we're also going to be starting to generate user data of what people are searching for and what they find, and if those two things are always the same. So I'd be very interested to find out what a commercial company was interested in regards to that. And we do have plans down the road to bring on some data scientists in particular to take a look at this information and help advise us on what's interesting about it, and maybe generate some white papers that are useful to the field broadly. So kind of, I guess, is the overall answer to your question.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you have ideas, again, please make use of my email address. I would love to hear that. Other things, we have about 7 minutes left, and I, of course, will stay on until the very last second. But if there are no other questions for now, I will just show you my final 2 slides in the PowerPoint presentation, which are just about overall what's important to Curationist and how we see ourselves moving forward. I always talk about this as our good citizenship at scale. It's one thing to build something cool and throw a party for ourselves, but overall what we're interested in doing, and what your thoughtful questions, Pelle and Christina, allowed me to talk about already, what we're interested in doing is participating in the field, participating in this whole ecosystem of cultural heritage, open access work, et cetera, et cetera. That's what motivates us to come to a conference like Europeana and showcase their collections, their digitized images, their open access work, along with our own projects. So we want to be participants, we want to be collaborators, we want to be partners in grassroots cultural heritage, with large art historical institutions, and broadly with the movements for open access art, education, and digital sovereignty. These are things that are important to us. We are a nonprofit. We will remain a nonprofit, regardless of any commercial partnerships that Pele can pitch me on. And we do this because we love it and we see the importance in it. So thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to share this work with you. Thank you so much, Noah, for that workshop. That was incredible. You're such a talented facilitator. And again, if anybody has any thoughts, any questions, any ideas that you want to share with me, I would be happy to jump on a call or just answer you by email. So please, please, please be in touch. And I'll end on image credits. All the images you saw in our presentation are available now in the Curationist beta, which is live. And if you would like to get notified when the new platform launches in November, again, that's a great reason to get in touch. So thank you guys so much. This has been a blast.
I have maybe one question because I think I missed it in the beginning. Do you only work with American institutions or worldwide?
Yeah, we are worldwide. We are global. We have partners right now, of course, from the United States and also in Europe. We are actively looking to expand and bring on new partners. And we are looking, at this stage, we're looking to partner with institutions of any size. So even if you have a small digital collection, we still have the tools to be able to bring you in. And something I said earlier in the presentation, which you might have missed, is that we really look to be able to put even smaller collections on the same playing field as the larger collections like the Met or the British Museum. Yeah, so if you have digital collections at your institution, we should absolutely have a conversation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Excellent. Well, we are down to our last minute. So let me please say thank you so much to Europeana. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Nicole, for all the support. Wow, what an amazing way to start my day. This is great. Enjoy the rest of the conference. For those of you who are live in The Hague or attending other online sessions, maybe I will see you there.